say, let's just tell everybody we're live now. Welcome everybody in and say let's.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are currently live. This is the AquiPor Investor live event. We're going to go through some updates, give you some progress reports. For those of you that are new to kind of following AquiPor and just now learning about what we're doing, we'll give a quick overview of what we've been working on. We'll kick everything off in a couple minutes. We'll let people join. Again, we'll give some updates, kind of the latest on everything we've been working on. And then, of course, we'll open it up to questions and answers, some Q&A at the end. Right now we're in the precast plant, so there might be some background noise. This is where we do all of our R&D, all of our research and development, our testing different concrete mixes. And this is also where we produce our porous aggregate technology, which we'll talk about. And that's something we're actually going to produce and sell into the market. So this is a production facility for AquiPor. I'm Greg, by the way, co-founder and CEO of AquiPor.
And I'm Josh. I'm the product development engineer and the guy in the lab collecting all this fun data.
Yeah.
I guess you can start off, just talk briefly, what is AquiPor?
Yeah. So we'll start from the very beginning. Let's talk about what AquiPor is and what we're doing. AquiPor has developed a proprietary porous concrete technology. What we mean by that is we've created basically a material, an ingredient that goes into normal concrete mixes. So they can be mixes that you use to make concrete pavers, like you see here. They can go into mixes that make pour-in-place or ready-mix concrete. And it can even go into large precast concrete units, precast utility units that go underground, basically anything that you can think of outside of structural concrete. So we don't use this technology to build buildings, for example, but anything where stormwater management is a key concern or something that needs to be dealt with or managed, we produce a technology, and this is a chunk of our actual patented technology that we then crush up into very fine powder. So this looks like cement and it's very fine. We actually blend this in a concrete mix and it creates products like this that are able to take on a very large amount of water and actually let that water dissipate through the concrete. But what's unique about our material or our technology is it has extremely small pore size. And so while water can go through the concrete, it actually filters dirt, debris, sediment, particulate matter, pollutants right on the surface. And so the way to think about it is it's like a concrete filter. So it keeps stormwater pollution out of the ground, out of our waterways. Now, a question that we get all the time is what do you do once you get a bunch of debris on the surface? You get a bunch of pollutant loading on the surface, water's going through, but over time, won't this clog up? And the answer is we're currently having third-party testing done to prove this, but this material actually will not clog over a very long period of time. And when you come in and you vacuum sweep the material, or like street cleaning, even a power wash, will get that debris off of the surface. And you can even see here, this has a bunch of dust on it. It goes back to almost full permeability. And so this is a brand new take on how to make permeable and porous concrete. So that's AquiPor. Now, what we're doing, the business model is such that right now, as we launch into the market, we're actually going to produce and sell our proprietary aggregate material. We call it an aggregate, but it's more like an admixture that goes into concrete. And then we will sell that to end users like, ready mix companies, precast manufacturers, even paver manufacturers, and then sell the material and then take a royalty on every square foot that's produced or every cubic yard that's produced out in the market. To start out, we're at the stage right now where we're actively seeking commercial and municipal pilot projects. And so pilot projects, the way to think about these are they're much higher level proof of concept projects that, you know, we can get paid for. So these could be paid contracts that go into the field, and then we test and monitor these over, say, 6 to 12 months. We build case studies on those with the idea of then getting into long-term contracts with those end users. And so it's been a really, you know, for us, a really progressive last 12 months to where we've gotten the technology to the point where it works in almost any mix design. We have the sizing just right, and this is something that we could scale up rather quickly. So super excited about that. If you want to talk about any of the testing that you've done over the last several weeks that kind of show how this is much different than traditional permeable concrete.
Yeah, so one of the key components with our material is having the proper sizing. And so we finally achieved that. So in the past, we've shown you guys suites of products that have looked great, but what we found is that by getting the sizing properly, get the material properly sized, you actually get a much higher rate of performance than we expected it, but with way less of our material. That's why Greg's calling it an aggregate, but it's more like an admix, because you're not really replacing any portion of the aggregate, you're blending it with the cement to enhance the characteristics of that cement as it cures. So we started out using type 3 cement because we work at a precast plant, and we saw wonderful results with that. Permeability, high strength, high early strength, but that's to be expected from type 3. What's really exciting is we've been playing around with a few different brands of 1L. 1L is 1L with their slight differences. And what we're seeing is you actually have almost more of an effect on 1L cement with our ad mix than you do on type 3 cement. Why is this cool? Higher early strengths and higher net strengths with lower amounts of cement are going to be cost savings, and they're going to be CO2 reduction pathways. So moving forward, we're working on dialing in mixes where we can reduce the amount of Portland needed to obtain the same strength, and then also add that permeability and porosity. And we're developing out a suite of products like Greg has showed you, and you guys have, if you've been following us, you've seen a lot of these, from dry cast to precast to pour in place, with a range of vaulting capacities. This can hold 10% of its weight, so about 1.5 pounds of water per square foot. These ones are going to be closer to 5%, so 0.75 pounds per square foot, depending on the pour thickness. And what we're seeing is giving these new options to engineers. They're coming up with all these cool ideas and use cases. A lot of them are very unique, and we can't think of everything, so we appreciate all the wild ideas. And I'm just excited because we've been testing them all out, and we've been seeing really great progress, great results.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's unique too about the technology is you can optimize the finished product for a number of different characteristics. So if you need a much stronger product, something that's going to be in the right of way, for example, so it's going to get heavy vehicular loading, we can give you that. We can give you a mix design that's hitting. We had a type 1L cement mix design that actually broke at, I think, 7,800 PSI at 21 days. And that was a 6.25 sack mix. And so without getting into all the ins and outs of like the concrete mix, the equivalent concrete control, the ultimate strength of just normal concrete with that level of cement should be like 5,000 PSI. And so we blew that out of the water. And what that shows us is our material is actually producing some hydration products early on in the curing of the concrete. So that's a big deal for the concrete industry. And you can get super high permeability like you see in this dry cast paver, or you can have something that's kind of slower but much stronger and has more vaulting capacity in a pour in place or a cast in place material like this. This finishes just like normal concrete. So you see some unfinished, textured kind of finishes here. This is an etched exposed aggregate look. So it's really something that, you know, it seamlessly integrates into how concrete's being made. You can finish it the same. And there's just a range of options that you can use with our technology. Now, a couple quick updates. Recently, we have our eyes on a pilot project that we're really excited about right here in Spokane. This project is funded by the Department of Ecology, so there's state funding going into the project. It's really close to home, like literally a few blocks from the precast plant where we operate out of. And it's currently like an unpaved road that's being totally developed. So they're going to pave the road, do sidewalks, walking paths, curb and gutter. And we are in the running, and it looks like we're going to get the project to do a portion of the sidewalk infrastructure and the walking paths. And this is really exciting for us because there's going to be a big testing and monitoring component by a third-party engineer. We're just now getting into the design phase. And so that's a project that we can point to and, again, build case studies off of to see how much particulate matter, stormwater pollutants, our material is actually keeping out of the water system, keeping out of the traditional, say, stormwater management and water treatment apparatus here in Spokane. So we're excited about that. I recently, like just last night, I got back from Los Angeles. We had meetings with the Los Angeles Unified School District about the rebuilding effort in the Palisades. So obviously, just over 1 year ago, we had those devastating wildfires, the Eaton and Palisades fires, completely destroyed 3 schools in the Palisades. I actually toured yesterday with LAUSD, and they are they have an edict to basically rebuild those structures and the infrastructure around those schools and in the community with resilient infrastructure. And so what they're looking at AquiPor for is obviously a technology that can go in the place of traditional concrete to manage stormwater. There also might be some uses to capture and even reuse water on site. And so that's something we're very excited about. We're at the table. Okay, there's no imminent pilot project contract in place, but we are making our way toward that. And so we had a number of really good meetings with the top brass at LAUSD. So big opportunities down there. On the testing front, we have recently got third-party test data back that shows our material is filtering 97.2% of particulate matter in stormwater. This is a big deal because that is now pollution that stays out of our waterways, okay, without clogging the material. The other piece of that is we're removing or filtering 82% of a compound or a toxin that's called 6-PPDQ. This is the oxidation product that comes off of tires, so tire wear particles. It's extremely toxic. In fact, the EPA has named this one of the primary stormwater toxicants. And so the fact that we're filtering that material, again, is a big deal. Filtering this through a concrete product is something that hasn't been done before. And so the next step for us with this third-party testing is we're actually going to go into a program called TAPE. It's through Washington State Department of Ecology. And the TAPE program basically vets and validates stormwater treatment technologies. What we're being told is we will be the first porous concrete or porous material of any kind to even enter that program. So we're very excited about that. That's a process. It's going to take a couple years in their testing and monitoring, but a huge step for us. Yes, yeah, good point. We're currently crowdfunding. Many of you may know, some of you may not, but there's just, I don't know, 18 days left or something in this current raise. And so this is ending soon. Raise ends February 9th. So you still have the opportunity to buy shares directly in AquiPor. And then once that closes, we'll talk about our future fundraising efforts, but we cannot guarantee our stock will ever be priced at what it is today. So this is an opportunity to still get in relatively early on the ground floor of what we're developing here. One last update, and then I'm going to bring Kevin Spilker into the picture to talk about a few things on the business development and sort of business model front. Big deal for us is we actually just got back an NDA. We've been in conversations with the building products group of one of the largest construction material companies in the world, and they're intrigued with the technology. So the next step obviously is to get under confidentiality and get an NDA in place. And so we got that NDA, we're going back and forth, but that's something for us that's a big deal because of their distribution arm and obviously the amount of reach they have in the concrete industry and in the construction industry. So that's something that we're obviously taking very seriously, and we're going to move a little bit slowly with them to start, but potentially a huge opportunity as we launch this to market. We're going to bring Kevin Spilker into the mix here. Kevin is the president of Spilker Precast, where AquiPor is set up, and he is also a chief advisor on operations and on the technical side for AquiPor. Key team member, and he's influencing very much how we're looking at the business and how we're going to go forward into the market.
Yeah, I think that's dovetails nicely off what you've already talked about. When you came to us a few years ago, we set about making permeable pavers. And that's where we started. And we did that. And we did that so successfully that we realized that, we have this technology that we can begin to apply to other forms of concrete, cast in place, precast, dry cast. We could make our aggregates work in any concrete mix. So we began prototyping that and like the pavers, incredibly successful. And I think we knew right off the bat, starting late last year, we just started doing our own in-house testing on our prototypes. And I think we spent probably $100 on the finest, brightest sand we could get off Amazon just to see if we could clog these things, because that was our biggest concern, and that's where other products have failed. And not only were we finding that we couldn't clog our material, but we suspected that we were filtering a lot of small particles based on what was left over on the sample, perfectly clean water underneath. So fast forward, 5-6 months, and we start getting this third party data coming in showing us that we're blocking 97.2% of total suspended solids, over 80% of 6 ppdq. And I don't think we were quite prepared for the implications of that data, because we set about just wanting to make a permeable hardscape, which we've done, mission accomplished. But a great question has been asked of us recently, and it's then what?
Right.
We block these particles, we keep these pollutants from getting into the groundwater. And so our initial view was that the then what would be solved by people down the line. And what we're learning from meeting with a lot of these groups is they're already overextended. Very few of these engineering firms, of these, building cooperatives have that knowledge. And that's where I think AquiPor is going to take the next step into the market, is not only bringing the technology to the market, but in performing a GCCM expert consultancy role of answering that question, then what?
Yep.
Because we know we can capture the pollutants, we know we can isolate them, we know we can collect them, and we know we can dispose of them. And so it makes a lot of sense for AquiPor to be the entity that not only provides that technology, but comes into projects with a full plan on how to actually implement removing those pollutants from the environment.
Yeah, that's really well said. And the way we envisioned this from the very beginning was this is a solution. It's not just a concrete. We're not just going to go in and compete with there's a lot of different permeable concrete products out there. They're not truly permeable. They rely on gaps. So what they'll do is they'll take a normal concrete paver and then they put aggregate in between the gaps or sand, and then water can go through these gaps, and that's considered permeable. What we know is those clog up over time. We're not bashing on those products. They've been out there. This is a totally different technology, but I guess the point is we're not out here to compete with permeable pavers. What we have is a full solution, and to Kevin's point, that brings us into another realm of the business model where we're developing systems. We're going to develop the maintenance protocol. We're going to develop the whole suite of how you solve the stormwater issue and the stormwater pollution issue on a site. And that's going to evolve into, I think, a much bigger business for us.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, in the meantime, if there are, customers, clients, projects that just want the best permeable hardscapes in the market, just for the sake of not wanting water to pool, of having, vulnerable areas that can't handle a lot of inundation, great, we're already there. I mean, we've already brought that to the market. And I'm sure we will sell plenty of permeable hardscapes because, I mean, just to be frank, there is no other permeable hardscape or paver on the market that can do what we do, that has the permeability that we have, that has the strength and the durability that we have. So we're already there. I mean, that part of the business has been, we're several months down the road of being done with the R&D in that. But for cities, for developers, for HOAs that are truly serious about the then what portion of really keeping microplastics, 6 ppdq out of the environment, then we can provide them with a full solution on how to eliminate those things, capture them, collect them, and dispose of them, and keep them from decimating our ecosystems.
Yeah. It's well said.
Any more, and then we can also do questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, we can jump into questions. And then just one more time for those that are just joining too, we have a crowdfund campaign. A raise is live right now. There's just a few days left. The raise ends February 9th. So you still have a chance to invest directly in AquiPor and be a part of the scale up.
Yeah, and I guess the one last thing I'll add is you may have mentioned the big pilot project we have going here in Spokane, and AquiPor as being, as selling the technology for permeable hardscapes, already market ready. We can already deploy AquiPor as a GCCM expert consultancy. That's nothing that's going to be a big step for us because we're already doing that on this upcoming pilot. Is we've managed to put together a truly impressive team of experts from across the spectrum, civil engineers, stormwater experts, hydrological experts. And so, yeah, I mean, the next phase of AquiPor and the next step in the business is really a baby step for us because we're essentially already doing that.
Yeah.
So here's a great question here. And then sort of repeat the question. Since AquiPor acts as a filter, what systems will be in place or used to pull the concrete of trapped pollutants?
Since AquiPor filters pollutants, what systems are going to be put in place to remove or dispose of those pollutants? And I think Kevin kind of just hit on that. We're going to be responsible for that piece of it, right? The consulting on that piece of it. And one thing to get more granular, as part of our third-party filtration testing, which is going to be complete in about 2 weeks from a third-party engineering firm, based on the data and those numbers, they're going to actually develop a design and maintenance protocol based on, again, the numbers, the raw numbers. And so with that, we'll basically have a specification of how you maintain the concrete to get it back to near full permeability after it's been inundated with pollutants and sediment and all the things that that question alludes to.
Yeah, and as far as the then what, that can look different depending on the project. I mean, I think that the solution will have to be custom suited to each project individually, and whether we capture and collect those pollutants and divert them into a type of dry well, catch basin. I don't think there's any one perfect solution for any project. I think that's the beauty of operating as a GCCM expert consultant, is that we have a range of options that we will develop, and depending on the needs of the project, it could look different from one project to another.
Yep.
Here's another question. Are you now, and you guys kind of already, are you actively selling new products right now? Are you still in R&D, or are you still innovating? And if you are selling, tell us about contract signed and products in the ground.
Yeah. Well, we'll always be in R&D. We're always going to be innovating. That's never going to change. We could be doing $200 million of revenue. We're always going to be innovating, because also I think we're just scratching the tip of the surface of what this technology can do. So that being said, we are coming out of, I think, the big phase of R&D and now getting to market. And so this year we will be selling the technology. We'll be selling into projects. We do have one project that's in the ground that we got paid on. It's a small pilot. So yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we're to market, and this is really a big year for us of getting pilots in the ground, paid pilots in the ground, so we start generating revenue. But we'll always be optimizing the technology.
And I think to kind of dovetail off that, market discovery might be easier for us than the vast majority of startups, because you don't want to be in the role of the ambulance chaser. But I mean, turn on the news.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's massive urban flooding, stormwater infrastructure failing, being inundated, I mean, that's where AquiPor goes.
Yep.
I guess kind of tailing off of that is, how is that sales pipeline coming along with the potential contracts? And then how much do you need to sell to break even?
Yeah, great question. Basically the question is, how is the sales funnel or the pipeline coming along? And how much do we need to sell to break even? The pipeline's growing. It's growing every week. We have, like I said, there's probably 2 big pilots that we're really focused on right now. But the conversation internally, and I'll share with everyone, is how do we grow the funnel over the next month, 2 months, 3 months to really, have, say, 10, 12, 15 pilot project opportunities, all for 2026 going into 2027, and just grow that funnel. That's something we're always looking at. There's probably, on the secondary side, we talk about project opportunities. We probably have 10 or 12 of those in the pipeline. But in terms of like what's imminent, I would say 2 pilots that I really think we can collect and capture and deliver over the next, say, 3 to 6 months. And then in terms of break even, the first project that went in the ground, we broke even on. So, I don't know how to look at that, because anything we sell into the market this year will break even and then make some money on. But now the next question is, as we scale up production, okay, that calculus changes now, because we're gonna have to invest in equipment, some more people, the machinery, the operation, to actually go from making, say, a couple tons, 10, 20, 60 tons of our raw material to thousands of tons. And so to do that, right, there's some infrastructure that we need to put in place, and that's going to cost some money, some capital. But yeah, I mean, in terms of this year, we're kind of already breaking even with every project that goes in the ground.
And I'll add that the nice thing about scaling is that as groundbreaking and revolutionary as this technology is, and I don't say that lightly. I've been in the building and the building materials industry for a long time. What we've done almost sounds impossible, and I don't think we had many people, frankly, believe in what we were claiming until we were getting that third-party data back. But the even crazier thing about it is that in order to scale up, there's no big leaps in technology that are necessary.
Good point.
As we set up, franchises across the United States, all of the technology needed is stuff that's existed since the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Aggregate crushers, mixers, ball mills. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no space age technology involved. It's all very nuts and bolts.
All
So
off the shelf. That's a really good point.
so scaling is relatively inexpensive as far as what the outcome is versus the amount of investment needed to get this incredible outcome. It's peanuts.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because this has taken a while. There's been some time put into the R&D portion, and there's a segment of the R&D portion that's really important to that point. Is we've gotten the technology to the point where really anyone can use it. It's easy to make. It integrates very seamlessly into the current industry, and that's a big deal. That took a lot of doing, because I remember our first prototype was an amazing product, but it was extremely difficult to manufacture. It was going to take tens of millions of dollars to set up the infrastructure to do that. And now, I mean, to set up really say a casting and crushing facility, I mean, we can get to thousands of tons with a $500,000 CapEx investment. So, yeah.
That's good. So a question that's kind of related to this would be, there's several people asking about how do they get it residentially, and so maybe talk about how they're going to go through contractors and don't be direct to consumers necessarily, and then somebody's asking, can you get it on the East Coast?
Yeah, this is a good question. It's one we get all the time, and the way to answer this, I think, is we're not really targeting the residential market. Now, we will take on residential projects and jobs, and we'll help put those projects together if they're somewhat local to Spokane. We can wrap our arms around that. The residential market will have access to this product nationally, I think, as we scale up where we're setting up manufacturing, and we do that regionally, because then it's just going to be a function of us distributing to the guys that make the end product, the end concrete, whether that's pavers or ready mix. If you're pouring a driveway, for example, we won't turn down projects, but for the gentleman that's on the East Coast, it'd be cost prohibitive, I think, for us to make the product here and then obviously ship it all the way over there. As we scale up, though, it's not cost prohibitive. If you're in Florida, for example, we would set up production there and then get the value chain together, whether that's a paver manufacturer or, again, a ready mix contractor, and work with them directly on your project. So that's probably a little ways down the road. If you're somewhat local in the Northwest, we'd entertain any project.
Okay, great. So the next questions that I'm kind of used to finish up the live here is people are asking about how to invest, when will the investment grow,
Yeah. The way to invest right now, you can go to startengine.com/AquiPor. The full investment offering is right there at the website. You can read through all the details of the company. That page has all the details of this specific offering. In terms of when the stock price is going to go up, I can't say that. Like, legally, I can't say that. Soon. But, you just have to watch and be a part of the mission, I guess, and then see our future financing plans. Here's what I can say. We've been very specific about, we never go out and raise money until we're ready to raise money. And that means hitting certain milestones that can validate valuation jumps and certain things to keep growing the value of AquiPor. We've been very serious about never doing a down round. And so what a down round is let's say we're selling shares at $293 right now, is, oh no, we need money, we need $1 million, and we're desperate, so we're going to go out and raise $1 million at a share price of $1. We've been very, very adamant about never doing that, and so we're pretty thoughtful about when we go out to raise money. We will need to continue to raise money, and I think any startup and really any company that's growing needs to do that. And so there will be a future raise. Stay tuned. I mean, we'll be emailing and contacting, communicating with our community about when that time comes. In terms of an IPO, that's definitely an exit strategy. I can't say whether that'll be in 2 years or 7 years, but that's certainly something that's on our radar. And there might be also be the chance that the company gets acquired at some point. We'll look at all those options. So yes, I mean that is in our, it's in our, can't think of the word, but that is something we're thinking about in terms of an exit strategy.
And I think I would add, as far as what is AquiPor worth? I mean, what is the value of the company? That's really hard to pin down, especially now, because we already knew that just the permeable side of the market with this material, very difficult to clog. We can custom make hardscapes that are permeable from 3 inches an hour to 30 inches an hour. That market alone, completely take the environmental pollutants out of it, is already tens of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now add in the element of what is it worth to cities like Seattle, cities on the East Coast, to keep microplastics, 6 ppdq out of their ecosystems, while relieving pressure on their stormwater systems and eliminating urban flooding.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to come up with a figure for that, but I'm sure that people can kind of wrap their heads around just how valuable not only the technology is, but the full application and the full potential of that technology. And I would add to that, Josh and I are, R&D is never going to end. We continue to geek out over chasing the next pollutant.
Yeah.
And we're already taking steps to go after, certain forever chemicals in a way that makes a real difference for our environment. So as far as how does that affect the value of AquiPor, it feels limitless.
Yeah.
It's hard to pin down.
Yep. And one thing I'll add is, we, in the concrete industry, building industry in general, one of the main questions we get is, how much more expensive is this going to be than concrete? And I even did a little social media post on this, where it's the wrong question to ask. I mean, really what we're looking at, and I think cities and engineers are starting to realize, what's the cost of not using AquiPor? And you can't compare this to normal concrete. Like, in terms of how it functions, yes, we're as strong now. It looks like we're stronger than an apples to apples mix in terms of durability and strength in concrete. But that function of managing stormwater pollution on site, mitigating urban flooding, there's a value, there's a premium to that. And I think when you look at using this in a full system design, it would be cheaper, more cost effective to use AquiPor to downsize the subterranean gray infrastructure that has to be in place when you pave a normal, traditional, non-permeable road. And so those are numbers that we put together. Those are models we've put together. And as we do these case studies on the actual pilots, I think we'll prove to people that this actually is a very economic solution. And that's only going to add, I think, to the value proposition.
Yeah, I think, these 1 in 100-year storms are happening every year now.
Yeah.
How can you put a price on having a much more resilient and adaptive infrastructure without having to do complete stormwater rebuilds?
Yeah.
All right, let me close this out by telling us where to go invest again and pour a little water on that sucker.
Right on. Well, I want to thank all of you that stuck around to listen to us. If you're interested and you want to actually become an investor in AquiPor, or you just want to follow the progress, go to startengine.com/AquiPor. Again, the investment round closes soon. It's closing on February 9th. You still have a chance to get in. And other than that, we will keep you updated. Like every bit of progress we make, you'll hear from us. And we do believe this is the future of concrete. This is the future of resilient stormwater infrastructure. We developed it right here at Spoker Precast, and we're ready for the next step.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's really obvious now how I started as a supporter and investor and am now part of the team. And there's much more than, I have much more writing on this than I ever thought I would, because I see the implications of this technology. I see what it can do for our environment. I see the problems that it can solve. And that's just as important to me as any financial investment. So, yeah, we're pretty stoked.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.